So this has really been the foundation of my planning of pretty much everything I build. My workflow has changed from using a planning document to grilling me and then creating the planning document and then implementing, to now grilling me and then just setting a goal and walking away. Sweet, thank you guys for coming.
George, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm George. I'm a software engineer. Been programming for 10 years or so, self-taught. Basically taught myself programming, moved to the Bay Area, started working in startups. I'm starting a new job on Monday at Parallel. Super stoked for that. Doing DevRel and yeah.
But also you help run the Codex community.
I run I've done some other stuff. I run a Codex meetup in the city. I was just really obsessed with Codex this winter when everyone was discovering Claude Code, and I was thinking, why aren't people using Codex? So I just wanted to create a space to kind of teach people. Yeah, I know there might be some tension around this. Using Codex in this demo, so. But yeah, been teaching and learning and posting on Twitter. And yeah, that's my thing. So actually a quick not round of applause, that wouldn't be the right thing. Let's start with a round of applause. No. All right, good way to start it, sweet. Raise of hands, who has never used a coding agent? All right, just Peter. Just Peter, okay, sweet. So that's good context. Who doesn't use it every day? Okay, sweet, a couple people. Okay, so it's a pretty technical crowd. I'll give you an outline of my talk. This is my presentation today. I forgot to attribute the quote. No, these were actually, they're a ChatGPT, but we're just gonna jump in here. It's gonna be pretty practical. So I'm gonna show you sort of the different stages of how I've approached AI-assisted coding over time to where I am to now, and I hope it's pretty practical. So initially, one of the biggest breakthroughs I came across was this past October. OpenAI published a blog post about, you hear of these coding agents running for hours, and at first it was like, oh, that's like, I was just kind of mind blown. It's like, how could it run for 8 hours? Now they claim 25 hours. And the way they do it is this planning document. Let's go to the right one. It's called plans.md. So basically, this is just a huge prompt where it's an instruction about how to create a planning document. So you dictate to your coding agent, or you tell it what you want to do, and then say make a plan based on this markdown file. And it creates what's called an exec plan, is what they call it. And it's just this awesome document that allows, through different compactions, it allows agents to stay on task, to kind of get back up to speed, remember what it's done, document its decisions, and then continue its work. So this has really been the foundation of my planning of pretty much everything I build since this came out, I think, in October. So I'm going to sort of just show you how I use Codex and how I use skills, and I have a somewhat contrived example of something I haven't built, but basically I'm just going to dictate. The idea is I have friends who I told Greg I was going to record my screen, and I guess this is a good time to start doing that. Let's start before I do anything. New screen recording. Boom. We gotta wait 5 seconds. Do another round of applause, I don't know. So me and my friends, when we're together, we always throw around predictions like, 2 years from now, there's going to be 20% unemployment, or AGI is going to be here by 2027. But I always forget when people make those predictions and never have a way to keep them accountable. I want to create a system where I can add my friends' emails to the system, write down the prediction, and write down the due date. And then on that date, send everyone an email reminding them of the predictions they made. So I'm just going to dictate the thing I want, and then basically what I do, I have a skill called exec plan create. So when I instantiate this skill, it's going to basically just read from a markdown file and create a plan. But one cool thing I like to do with Codex is I like to chain skills. So I'll do exec plan improve. Oh, they changed it. So you can kind of you can chain these skills. So once this first one is done, it'll run the next one, implement, review. So at a certain point, you can go watch a movie. That's awesome. And what's cool about both is it big enough, by the way? Yeah, it's big. What's cool about this, I didn't create the exec plan framework, but I created these skills to create plans. And what this improvement one does, it sort of gives it a framework. There's a Stanford professor named John Osterhout, and he just has really good, clean coding principles. So I modified the planning document a little bit and the improvement document to just say, like, follow these great software engineering principles. And when the agent makes this improvement pass after it creates this initial one, it's going to return a score at the very end, 1 out of 10, about how useful that improvement was. So I could actually chain these improvements to improve it like 25 times. It'll probably realistically only improve it usefully a few times, but when it returns a score of 3 or less, it'll just return the word skip. And then instructions inside of the skill say if the previous message said skip, just skip. So the idea is that you can just put a bunch of these improvement skills, and after it's done improving it, it'll just go to implement it. The implementation skill is pretty straightforward. It's just look at the exec plan, follow it, implement it, and then review recent work. I'm going to show you why this is flawed soon, but the idea is it's just a code review pass on your own code. I've created the exec plan now. Let's take a look at it just so you can kind of see the structure. How many lines does it say? I don't know how many lines. Doesn't really matter. But it sort of, it's kind of just outlining. I should have told it, like, I want to deploy this to AWS, make it more ambitious. I'm going to bail on this and show you the next upgrade to my workflow. Let's go back to my presentation. All right, sweet. So a huge flaw in this, I'm actually going to copy just the dictation I did, so you don't have to listen to me say all that again. So a huge improvement to this. So when I give it this instruction, it's a very broad overview. And this is actually what these quotes I kind of like conjured up are, is the models aren't going to know all of your intent. So before just telling it to go build, it's important to, so there are my instructions from before. I'm going to say grill me. And there's a guy named Matt Paddock. I think he's a British guy. Awesome engineer. He came up with this idea, just have your agent interview you. And it'll interview you incessantly. It'll just keep going, ask you questions about what you want. But the idea is it's going to ask you clarifying questions about what do you actually mean? What do you want? And sometimes it'll ask you like 100 questions. It's kind of crazy. But it's really good because AI is always eager to build something, but is it actually building what you want? So I'm going to say, let's go with that recommendation, and then ask me 10 questions at a time. Cool. And then I'm going to axe that part. And really what happens here is probably, I spend a lot of time on this grill me thing. Like, this is the time I think makes the most sense to spend your time like clarifying what is your intent and actually thinking and researching, having a back and forth. I told it to go 10 at a time because I'm just going to blast through it. But I'm just going to, oops, let's do that. I'm just going to get a lot of these suggestions down so that we can get to the next step. We can just read random ones if you want. I guess that's fine. And really, when you're asking your agent to help you sort of clarify unknowns, 95% of the time, it's answering what I want. So I end up oftentimes saying, sure, let's go with it. But let's see, I might just kill it for a time and say, I'm going to say, okay, I think we're ready. Encode all of those recommendations into a decisions.md file. So the idea here is I've now given it my original instruction. I've had it grill me to clarify the intent. And now I'm going to like create, I didn't tell it to do this exactly, but it'll do something similar. I'll have it create like markdown checklists of like everything we've decided so that now we have this decisions.md file, and then we can go create our exec plan from there. And the exec plan will reference the decision. So when it's a long-running task, we've basically had the agent have a durable place to remember everything we've decided. And let's just see what it looks like. Okay, this is okay. I would have told it to make it check boxes just so I can the agent can know if it's done or not. But the next big thing, let's flip back to the presentation. Cool, yeah, I mean, this was a huge change in the last few months. I think, I want to say Codex did it first, the goal feature. So with goal, they released this goal feature, and the idea is that you can have an agent run for many hours, many days. Peter, you've probably gone for we have one still going since the first day it came out, maybe. But the idea is there are best practices for goals, and in the Codex code base, you can tell Codex to look at the code base. OpenAI engineers are posting on Twitter saying this is how I use goal. So I created a skill called Goalcraft, which helps you write a goal. And goals have limitations like character limits and things like that. And so my workflow has changed from using a planning document to grilling me and then creating the planning document and then implementing, to now grilling me and then just setting a goal and walking away. So when I do this Goalcraft thing, I'll do this, encode these decisions, or just make sure we complete all these decisions before the goal is done. And this skill, I've integrated different blog posts and best practices that I've found online about creating goals. And so it makes sure it's within this character limit. It makes sure there are stopping conditions, ways to verify your outputs. And I recently updated it so that instead of just writing a plain text goal, it actually activates the goal. So really in 2 steps, you can go from this is what I want, grill me, get everything you need, and then run the Goalcraft skill and your goal is kicked off. And it has tons of context about what you want. That context is encoded somewhere in a markdown file. Actually, in this case, it's not. It's just in the context of the conversation. Like all of these questions it asked me, imagine we go through 25 compactions of a goal. It might not still have all these questions, but we'll solve that soon. Okay, cool. It made the goal. We can take a look. I'll just go to a new note. There's a sort of similar format for best practices for goals. Not super important for this talk to read through all this text. There's a lot of text. But basically, the idea is giving it context, boundaries, constraints, verification levels, and stop conditions. So at this point, I started creating goals, and it was awesome because you can get goals to run for days, and it'll just keep going. But I found that there were often, I'd have to steer it a lot and kind of jump in and interrupt it and say, oh no, this is what I wanted. So I've sort of combined this. I'm going to pause this goal and delete and stop. I've combined this idea of, where the heck? That's weird. Where is my message? I don't know where we're at. Okay. I basically combined the idea of after grilling me on the architecture decisions, instead of just creating a goal and having it run, what I've found is that what we're missing here is durable artifacts to remember what we've done so far. And so what I skipped here when I did this Goalcraft thing is the whole planning phase and this whole exec plan. Inside of this exec plan, there are lots of checklists and references and patterns that we should be following. But when you just go and create a goal, it doesn't have any kind of durable memory. I mean, it does have the decisions that I've written here, but otherwise you just have this kind of goal that's floating. It's like, okay, I'm gonna keep trying to do this. So what I've done recently, I created a new skill I created this today, called Grillcraft. And it's basically after you're grilling, you can run Grillcraft and it'll turn all of your decisions into a markdown file and then create an exec plan and just make sure that you have these two artifacts that are linked up so that as your goal progresses, it's progressing through the exec plan. So it has more structure to proceed through your goal. And then it has all of your decisions still encoded from your grilling session. Let's kill that. So that's a lot of this. I've experimented a lot with just trying to get agents to run for a really long time and try to see how ambitious I can make them. And I'm excited to see what the other two presenters have because, yeah, I think I'll learn something. But in my experience, I've found that when I get agents running for a really long time, what I'm missing is like mid-session grilling session. Maybe I could just pause it and ask it to grill me. I didn't think of that. But it seems like when you have an extremely ambitious project that's going for days or weeks, at some point it's making decisions without you. So sort of my North Star and what I'm trying to figure out is how can I keep myself in the loop and keep giving it feedback, but also delegate it and kind of do more of this looping behavior. The last part is I have a skill called review recent work. I'm just going to invoke it even though I don't have work to review. But typically after I create a feature, I will run this review pass. And this works in a similar way as my exec plan improvement skill, where after doing a code review, it will make the fixes, and then it will return a score from 1 to 10. The idea being, if you're doing code review, and it's not finding any more improvements to make, it'll return a score of 3, and then it'll return the word skip. So if I'm about to go to bed, I might put 50 of these skill chains and just keep doing code reviews. But I got good feedback, actually, at one of my events where somebody said, well, you're kind of asking the agent who wrote its own code what its problems are. And they brought up this idea of adversarial code review. And so I thought a lot about that. And I've tried I actually have different skills. Whenever I want to write something, I don't know, maybe I'm writing an important email, I'll usually write it with Claude. That's one of my primary uses for Claude. It's just way better at writing. So I have a skill in Codex where it'll write with Claude, which is handy. And I've tried calling other LLMs from Codex. And I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of these, like when you open up pull requests, you'll see random bots commenting on pull requests to try to help you out. Actually, in the process of doing this, I opened a PR for this Grillcraft. I'm actually taking one step back. I have a repo called Useful Codex Skills that has all the skills I've talked about here today. The grill me, the exec plan stuff. And I opened up a PR to add this Grillcraft skill to it. And I got a comment from Kodo. Kodo's a PR reviewer. And so what's cool, it'll comment on your PRs and it'll sort of like, it'll kind of give you, that was a sort of useless diagram. But it'll give you an overview of what's going on and it'll find bugs, which a lot of code review tools do. But what's cool, Kodo is a little bit more built for teams. So the idea is that inside of the Kodo UI, it can read from your different agents.md, your Slack, Jira tickets, contacts throughout your organization, and it'll create these rules for you. So the idea is that before you set this up on your pull request, that you kind of get your engineering team together and say, what are the rules that we never want broken? And where should we centralize these in one place so that your code review tool isn't just scanning your code base, it's importing context from your other tools. So I think that's pretty useful. And another cool thing is when it comments on your PR, it'll just put a prompt that you can literally just copy. And I think there's a skill now where you can just basically automate this process. So instead of printing the prompt, it'll actually go use it and apply it. But I think that's the final part of my Codex workflow. So happy to answer any questions if there are questions. Otherwise, we can go for a third round of applause. What do you got?
Where are you spending the most human time right now in this whole flow? Like, what do you need the most human intelligence for?
That's a great question. I would say planning. So probably getting I mean, what I did here is building a brand new project, but often you're in something much bigger. So I think just critical thinking about what are we going to build, and the more important, like if it's vibe coding, I'm probably having 3 threads go at a time and just going crazy. But if it's really important, I think like reading the plan and making sure it's what I want, and then testing, I'd say.
In your first example, you queued up a bunch of the same skill over and over again to review the code. Why not just use a /goal or a loop to effectively do the same thing without having to queue them all up?
It's a good question. I don't have a super strong. I've been doing that improvement thing since probably December or something like that. But yeah, presumably you could create a plan and say, invoke this skill over and over until it stops improving, something like that. But probably lots of different ways to do it. What you got?
Yeah, I really like your workflow here. I was wondering, for a lot of these skills that you're creating, it seems like you said like, oh, let me try like an adversarial review from an idea. And it seemed like, you kind of try it out, but what kind of eval would you use in order to understand if this is like the best skill for that job?
That's a great question. I think evals are really important for skills, and it's something that I'm not, I would say, in this room, the authority on. So
like human eval for now?
What's that?
Human eval for now, like how it feels is how you...
Yeah, vibes. Yeah, I mean, like, I find that like with the code review skill, it would tell me that there are no problems, and then I would open it up with Kodo, and it would be like, they're using, I think, Opus 4.8 on the back end, and so just having that other LLM review it would almost every single time find me new bugs that weren't being discovered from my own skill. So seeing more bugs, good eval.
What's the final document? So if you went away from this project and came back like 3 months from now, what would you use as the document to bring you back up to speed on what it is that you built?
Yeah, I would use this exec plan. I might have axed it somehow. I somehow lost it in this context. But yeah, this planning document, I mean, the way that these planning documents work, the way I've set it up, in a vibe-coded project that's one shot, that would be it. That would be the canonical document of what you would come back to understand what's going on. But I've had projects where I'll have like 50 or 100 exec plans. And so I put it in a get-ignored file in the root of my repo just called .agent/work. And it just stores all these markdown files. And sometimes agents will go in there and find stuff, maybe pick up a bad idea or two. But yeah, I like to I keep them. I often don't read through them. It's really just for the agent, but yeah.
So you're not looping through with each iteration to try to keep it up to the current state?
No, it's more of a throwaway. It's just a produced artifact that's only being referenced as the work happens. Cool. Thank you guys.